So, after discussing about different types of business organization in the previous sessions, that is maybe the sole proprietor, the partnership firm, the corporations, etc., we now proceed to understand the next type of organization, and that is the non-profit organization. In this session, we will discuss in details and also factors affecting the decision making process of in deciding the business structure. So, a non-profit organization it operates for a specific social, charitable, maybe educational, religious, or any other purpose, and it does not looks for or the it does not seek profit, from its owners and its stakeholders. So, in non-profit organization, as the name itself is suggesting, the profit is not the prime motive of the business. So instead, here, any extra monies that are reinvested in the organization in order to help it to achieve its objective. Non-profit organizations, they are essential in meeting societal demands and promoting community well-being. They work in various industries, and their impact, that it extends beyond the financial advantages, because it concentrates or focuses on more on social transformation and public services. The biggest advantage of this non-profit organization is that it tries to carry out, or its objective is to carry out a mission that benefits the public at large, bring about a transformation in the society. So it focuses on a more significant purpose, and and it helps to help the members also, who get together or come together to form this kind of organization. Another benefit of the non-profit organization is that it enjoys the tax exemption status. That is, many non-profit, they qualify for tax exemption status, which means that they do not have to pay federal income tax. The donors, they may also be entitled to tax deductions on their contribution. So it's not only the organization which get the benefits of tax and exemption or tax deduction, it is the people who are contributing to the capital, or they are contributing by way of by through maybe donating the money for the working of this organization. They too get tax benefit and tax exemption. Another benefit or advantage of forming a non-profit organization is that it has access to grants and funding. A non-profit, they frequently receive the grants and financing from the government agencies, the maybe some foundations, and also the those organizations who are involved in philanthropic activities, or maybe they philanthropic organizations, they contribute to the functioning of such unit, which helps them to achieve their objective. Obviously, these organizations are very much essential in meeting the societal need, the societal requirement, fostering in a way social welfare through their organization, and they contribute in community building and as well as community development. The impact extends beyond financial rewards, and it focuses on a positive social development part. And therefore, these kinds of organizations are very important to keep the society, progressive and healthy in a way. There are volunteers in these societies, in these organizations, the volunteers who help the non-profit, organizations by donating their time sometimes, in addition to the funds, in addition to the money contribution. So they give their time because they volunteer to work for them. They also give expertise their expertise to further the organization's objective. So this increases the organization's capabilities without incurring much financial cost, because usually these expertise and time are devoted or dedicated out of passion. They want to contribute, so it is out of passion, and it's we don't have to pay for their services. Therefore there are no financial loads on the corporation, but they get good and best services from people. There is because these organizations, they are linked with great cause, and they have the main objective is to serve. They are linked with great causes, and they are serving the public interest, frequently. It earns public attention also, and it also, they gain public trust also very quickly if they are working, they are found to be working, genuinely. So this may, elicit support from individuals and the organizations too, in order to promote and develop these organizations. Another advantage of this kind of organization is that non-profit employees and volunteers, they are frequently driven by a shared dedication to the organization's objective. So this dedication, it usually helps to create a very solid and coherent organizational culture. So this it is very conducive, it is very friendly environment, and it keeps everybody intact, with full of energy in order to contribute to the to attain the objectives of the organization. These Another advantage is that these organizations, they have a perpetual existence. That is, they have a continuous existence, which means that they can continue to operate despite the changes in the leadership or the ownership, because that is transferred. A person may come and go, but the company has a perpetual seal, a perpetual existence, and therefore this entails the stability and continuity of their objectives, of their mission, to help the society, to contribute to the development and progress of the society. So these kind of organizations are very popular these days. All those who want to go into philanthropy or charitable contribution to the society, they opt for a non-profit organizations. So having so many benefits, this organization, it has certain disadvantages also. That is, they have certain limitations. Obviously they suffer. For example, these non-profits may have very limited sources, because they rely significantly on donation, grants, and fundraising efforts. So limited, because when people are contributing, you cannot force them to contribute more. So these organizations, they are usually constrained with restricted financial resources, which limits their size, which limits their functioning and the scope of their program. Until unless people do not believe, they do not have trust, and on these non-profit organizations, they will not contribute their money. And till that time, it has to work in a very constrained financial resources with the limited things. This is one of the factor. Another factor that is very much prevalent or found in this kind of organization is that there is a complexity of funding. Actually, securing money can be quite difficult often, for because they, non-profits, they sometimes need a diversity, and their revenue, they need to diversify their revenue stream. So dependence on a single source of funding, it leads to financial instability, and lack of surety, lack of consistent fund availability also leads to a lack of surety in the continuity of these kinds of organization. uh, in addition to financial constraint, there are also some regulatory compliances that need to be fulfilled. Often it becomes quite lengthy process. Actually, what as we have said, just we discussed just now, that they enjoy the tax exemption status, tax deduction status. Now, in order to keep that tax exemption status, non-profit organizations, they have to follow some very strict regulations and rules laid down by the government, and if they fail to do so, they result in maybe financial fines or penalties, and maybe they also enter into the loss of those tax exempt benefits, etc., etc. So they have to be very careful while they are getting the while they are getting themselves registered. They must pay attention that they be working on the same lines as they have been registered. Otherwise, it's very easy that they lose that status or that benefit. Coming to the volunteering part, that is, here these non-profit organizations usually they work or sustain on the basis of volunteers, whether it is in terms of finances or in terms of services and expertise. But these they make these volunteers, they make essential contribution. So managing a volunteer for workforce present a very unique problem in itself, such as maybe recruitment, training, and coordination. Anybody volunteering for maybe suppose time or expertise, but if we do not find them suitable, we will have to train them, and so we have to train them as per the requirement of the organization, which is again a very challenging job. And another thing is that uh, there are sometimes leadership crisis also. That is the leadership, because the organization heavily depends upon a very single charismatic leader or the owner. Because of his dedication and devotion, the organization has come into the form and is running. Now suppose something happens to that owner or leader, then the departure of such leader will hinder the continuation of the organization. That becomes, then it becomes very difficult. And so it is always suggested that the leader should have some similar people or similar people to take over whenever such kind of need arises. There should be a team building with equivalent talents and equivalent dedication that is required. Another drawback of this kind of organization, that they are subject to public scrutiny, because they are established for the people, they are established for the development of the society, and therefore they are also subject to public scrutiny very closely now and then. And any apparent misuse of funds or divergence from their objectives can, it can destroy their brand and stakeholders trust. So this is something they have to be very careful about. That is, the public image of the organization should be good enough, so they have to work thoroughly on that end also. And also, with the so we find that sometimes, until unless it does not, an organization, a non-profit organization does not establish itself firmly, it has to strive for so many things, maybe for fund, for image, for trust, for loyalty, for talents, etc. But still, since their objective and mission is always great enough, many of them are doing very good job. The last one is the cooperative society. A cooperative is a collective organization and governed by individuals to fulfill their shared economic, social, and cultural requirement and ambitions through a jointly owned and democratically controlled firm. The individuals, they comprise the cooperative society. They are the ones who utilize the goods, resources, and services together in order to form this organization and run it. So profits are frequently distributed among the members of the cooperatives. Nevertheless, these cooperatives, primarily they prioritize providing services to their members rather than making certain investments. Cooperatives are established to serve various specific purposes or meet some diverse requirement, such as maybe collective processing items, or maybe dividing the expenses, distributing control over the work, leveraging purchasing power through bulk purchases, or sharing the staff, and maybe distributing the pay in this way. So they are formed and they function on the basis of the whole sole principle is on cooperation among the members who want to run the organization and who want to sustain it. So these are the different forms of organization. So we have discussed a very comprehensive list. Now let us come to the next part, that is what factors should be considered while deciding for a business organization. So here there are 10 factors which are important enough. Apart from this, we have more, but first we will discuss this. So the choice of business organization actually is a very, very important and sensitive decision that must be, that must be consistent with the nature of your company, its aim, and the regulatory environment. So as your firm matures and grows, it is essential to examine it very regularly and weigh the benefits and drawbacks carefully. It is very important to match the chosen structure with the organization's objective, comprehend the complexity of regulatory compliance, and build a long term financial strategy. So, when deciding on the form of organization, I think we must consider the following factors as they are placed before you. The first factor that should be considered is the liability factor. We must consider the extent of personal liability. That is, how much money an individual can, can maybe uh, can keep it at stake. For example, the sole proprietors and partnership firms, they are personally liable, but the corporations like LLCs, they have limited liability protection. So it depends upon your funding capacity, your financial strength that you possess, and how much money you can, afford to lose. Because the organization, if we cannot afford to lose my money to the extent of my private property or my private assets, I think then I would prefer the LLCs, maybe, or limited liability, any corporations that have limited liability protection. Whereas, if yes, I'm ready that if I go for a business loss, I'm ready to sell my house also in order to meet those liability, then maybe partnership and your sole proprietorship are a good option. Next factor is the tax implication. That is, assess the tax implication on each arrangement. That is, whatever kind of organizations that we have already discussed, just one must go through those structures and assess that what kind of tax implications each have. For example, the sole proprietor and maybe partnership, they are generally taxed individually, whereas corporations, they go for a double taxation. That is, first the corporate profits, taxes on corporate income. After that, whatever dividend is distributed, dividend tax is charged on that. So you have to first thoroughly understand the tax structure, tax implications, tax impositions, etc., and then decide maybe that what kind of structure should be kept, should be taken up. We also have to determine that how we want to run the business. Maybe sole proprietorship and partnership, it provides more direct control, whereas corporation, it requires a board of directors and officials. So what kind of a structure should do I want, do I think that I should be taking the decision myself, I should be the only boss, then maybe I go for a sole proprietorship. If I want more people to get connected to me, I would not take all the risk and all the responsibility myself. I would like to have people competent enough to partner me, then maybe I can go for partnership. And if I want a bigger board of directors, a management board also, an administration also, then maybe I decide for corporate sector, or maybe you know other kinds of organizations which need a broader setup, a more democratic setup before taking a decision. So we have to explore on the basis of what kind of management structure we require. Next, another very important component, and that is the capital requirement. uh, that is, I think, most important element that must be taken into consideration. That is, what is the company's financial need, how much money it requires to operate. Usually, if you can work on a small scale, then maybe sole proprietor is good enough. But usually, when you need a larger or huge capital base, you will, and you cannot fund by yourself, or just taking the bank's help is not sufficient, then you can choose for becoming a corporate sector, or maybe registering yourself as a corporate, because here you can raise the capital by issuing the shares and debentures in the market. And it will depend upon your credibility, your profitability, as in how much well you can sell off your these stocks. So capital requirement also plays a very important role, in deciding that what kind of business organization I'm going to have. Next, another thing is the regulatory compliance. Regulatory compliance, because the legal framework that has to be adopted and that has to be followed will vary from organization to organization. It is most simple to form a sole proprietorship, very easy. Maybe the process a little more, or maybe it's easy enough in partnership too. But as you move to LLC, to corporate sectors or corporations, you need a you need further more complicated regulatory compliances have to be done. So we have to first expose ourselves, or maybe learn the legal and regulatory requirements which are applicable to each type of organization. Because the compliance, it varies, and meeting legal duties is very critical, and it is compulsory. And therefore, whatever you think that you can operate more efficiently, you must go for that. So regulatory compliance is important. Next is the long term goal of the organization. uh, I think you must be careful enough, because you have to align your choice of organization with your long term company objectives. If you intend to become public or attract significant investors, then I think corporations can be better suited. If you want to have a long term, you want to play long in the field of your business, the corporations are a good choice, can be a good choice. Whereas sole proprietor or partnership, they are subject to a short term period. Till you sustain, you will continue the business. Otherwise, the business has to be shut down. Now coming to next, that is the ownership structure. Ownership structure means that how many number and how many types of owner that you want, that you will prefer. You want to be your own boss, so maybe you will go for sole proprietorship, or you want to keep just few people, maybe partnership. But partnership may be appropriate if you prefer a greater freedom and a more straightforward ownership structure, whereas a corporation or limited liability may better suit for a larger organization with several owners and maybe more stockholders. Because here then you have to take into consideration these owners also, means the equity shareholders also. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. Next is the industry norm. That is, we have to understand what is going on in the industry. We have to understand that. We have to consider the most typical organizational structure in our sector. That is, what's going on, what kind of what the nature of my business is. For that, what kind of businesses they are already holding, what kind of structures they are already running or having. So a specific industry may choose unique structure owing to operational and budgetary considerations, and there are so many other factors also, maybe legal provisions, maybe the budget and financial constraints, maybe the operational requirement, or maybe the economies of scale also. So these, you have to first check it out, that what is going on in the industry. What kind of organization your competitors are having, and how they are operating, on what scales they are operating, what are their operational capacity, etc. Because to survive, I think a minimum scale has to be taken up, a minimum economies have to be considered. So you have to just check out and explore and then decide accordingly. Next is flexibility. That is, you should here consider each structure's flexibility in terms of maybe management, the decision making process, and ownership changes. This is actually, any organization and any business, it is established in a very dynamic world. Things keep on changing, maybe the preference, the taste, fashion, norms, rules and regulation, the government. When these things change, they impact our businesses, and therefore, the businesses or the structures have to be flexible enough in order to modify, or in order to adapt to these changes well. So how can we go for the flexibility, maybe in terms of management, or in terms of when we have to take some certain decision. It will depend upon that what level of decision has to be taken. So we have to consider the factor, each structure, that how much flexibility is available, and then adopt the one which suits the most to our organization's need. And last is the professional advice. Obviously, after considering all these factors, I think it is very pertinent that you go to the experts for their expert advice and their wisdom, the experience they have from by suggesting, because they are the people who are directly in contact on the field, on the ground, with the industry itself, and they'll give you the best suggestion. So maybe you can go, we can consult with a legal and maybe financial experts also, because the legal framework and the financial framework, they are the two most strong pillars on which our business stands. So these people will give you, they will offer you their insights based on their unique business context, and their on the objective what you have for your business. So you can get the consultation, and then take their opinion, and then maybe you are in a better position now to decide that what kind of organization you are going to have for your business. So that is all about the kinds or types of business organizations that do exist, and the factors that should be taken into consideration before deciding for a business organization. So that is all about this topic. Thank you.